I think that I take issue with that statement. I think that you often see people talk about making change in a time of crisis. If you make a change in a time of crisis, it's something that you can unify people around very easily. And there are people who talk about actually creating crises in order to get something moving. And of course, the biggest crisis you can have is when the bottom line is going in the wrong direction. I've always believed that, I think that running a business is like climbing in the mountains, and that you are constantly climbing up a hill, and you get a horizon, you get a horizon, you get a horizon. And actually, at some stage, even if you're on a big prairie, you get to the top where you've got a great view. But when you get to the top, you find there's a force 8 gale blowing in your face. And my view is it's a damn sight more difficult to sit at the top of the mountain than to get to the mountain. And I think that as soon as you are near the peak, you've got to be thinking about what's the next challenge. I think if I could just get one of the big changes I believe that's happened in the last 10 or 15 years is the complete global dimension to our business. Yeah. The fact that everybody is now connected to everybody. You're not competing against the blacksmith in the local village anymore. You are competing on a global platform. And once you press the send button on a machine, the whole world knows what you're doing. And once that's done, people will replicate. So I think that it doesn't matter whether it's upturn or downturn, because of the speed of change, the speed of customer aspirations changing. They want it quicker, they want it cheaper, they want it better. But they also have some hang-ups about, well, why, if I'm working in the UK, do I talk to someone in an Indian call centre? Because your motor policy is going to be £20 cheaper. But I want it cheaper, but I don't want to talk to someone in India. These are sort of dilemmas you face. But my view is that actually it is probably easier in a crisis situation to manage than one when you're at the top of the pile. I would ask people to look at the top 20 companies of 20 years ago in the world and see how many of them are there today.
Okay. Steve, important point that Patrick actually mentioned here. We're living in a globalized economy. We're living in an increasingly integrated economy where what you do in India makes a difference to what your operations are doing in the United States. Given that, what do you think is the most critical challenge for a leader today?
Well, I think in today's complex world, it's continuing to learn. I just can't say enough about the importance of leadership in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be anchored in a real understanding of the global economy, of the socioeconomic impact of business. And I think that's going to put an incredible pressure on the leaders that are coming in to run tomorrow's businesses. I think it's a very complex world. There's competitors coming from every direction, from every part of the world. And for a leader to be effective and to be able to look around the corner and see what's coming very effectively, you're going to have to continue to learn, and you're going to have to continue to reinvent yourself, and you're going to have to be comfortable with that rapid pace of change. Okay. And you're going to have to make sure it's in the DNA of your management team.
All right. I'm going to ask one last question to Lakshmi before I throw it open to anybody else who might want to ask our panelists any questions. If there are microphones that we have in the audience, could you please raise your hands, identify yourself, and then ask the questions. I'll just come to you in 1 second. Lakshmi, Patrick talked about how absolute clarity of vision and goals was an imperative as far as good leadership is concerned, how we should keep it simple, there should be clarity about what the ultimate goal and philosophy really is. Now, one can't really say that about India's political leadership at this point in time, but if you were to talk about the regulatory environment, if you were to talk about the policy environment, how critical is it for a leader to be a good manager of policy and regulatory environments at this point in time?
Yeah, again, it's different in our context in the IT industry because we are not that regulated. But having said that,
it is. For an FDI sanction, aren't you?
Yeah. So, having said that, it is important to manage that. You know, going back to the first point that you mentioned about or the discussion around leadership, styles of leadership, etc. There's just one comment that I want to make. The style needs to change depending upon the condition. Clearly, in a good condition, growing condition, the company is doing well. Leaders tend to be a little more democratic. They tend to be entrepreneurial, etc. At a time of crisis, you have to be a little more autocratic. You have to take charge and then really manage that. That's one important point that I wanted to make. But in terms of managing the regulatory environment, it is what worked for us and what we believe will continue to work is level of transparency. Level of transparency, data to show that this is the environment in which we are operating. This is the global context. For example, if you were to take the example of the tax implication that you're talking about, we are saying here is an opportunity for the Indian ICT industry to be a major player in the global arena. Are we big enough yet? No, we are under 3%. We represent under 3% of the global IT services products revenue. That's neither here nor there. If we have to have a dominant presence and derive the benefits of dominating a particular industry, we have a long way to go. So until then, we need to get all the help that we can. And that is the basis on which we need to put forth the argument and manage that, rather than listening to the other point.
As someone investing in India, I have to take up that particular challenge about taxation and regulation. I describe the fact that we have weightless product in the global economy. We can move our product anywhere in the world, and we've chosen to bring it to India. We've chosen to bring it because both the tax and the regulatory regime was at the time transparent and encouraging. The danger, of course, is that people look at this golden goose that's laid the golden egg and think they can start to strip it out. And I have huge concerns, as I talked in some of the states that we work in at the moment, that people are looking at retrospective taxation on some of the things that we've achieved and some of our business partners have achieved. And my view is that absolute transparency is vital, but that if we don't think we're getting a good deal, then it will cause quite a big issue. And it will be not an issue for one company, but it will go back to what I was saying about the global dimension. The fact that we can now arbitrage regulation and taxation around the world. On a lighter note, once we're paying the taxes, what we'd really love to see is a little bit more tarmac road, a couple of more airports and some railways.
You're not the only one, Patrick. You're not the only one. Well, the finance minister clearly isn't listening at this point in time, but we'll try and see if we can get your message across to him. All right, let's go across for questions now. You can raise your hand so that, yes, go ahead. Can we have a microphone, please? Great. Can you identify yourself and also which panelists you'd like to direct your question to?